critical.
Yep.
And what it is that Newton's third law, which we're so, bent on trying to protect, that there's a finite amount of energy in the universe that keeps converting itself from mass into electromagnetism and back to mass, that it's the same amount of energy that always existed. And I've always had a problem with that, especially with the expanding universe model. And essentially, what I discovered is when I was looking at the wavelengths of the counter-rotational spin, interesting enough, of all the subatomic particles, I realized all the wavelengths were different, and that violated Newton's law. And I didn't know why anybody didn't notice this, because I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of particles. Now, note that, going back to my UFO experience in 1968, that I saw the lights spinning counter-rotational to each other, and one was a set of blue-green lights, and another counter-rotational was red-orange. Well, it's interesting because blue-green is a shorter wavelength or higher frequency waveform than red, orange, or yellow, which are longer waveforms, which means between them, if two waves are spinning against each other, they're competing with each other, which means when they actually fight with each other, they don't cancel out to an equal and opposite. Newton's third law states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And over, wherever I looked in the quantum universe at the measurements of every particle that exists in the subatomic universe, from an electron, positron, to a proton, antiproton, to a muon, anti-muon, tau, anti-tau, on and on it goes, quarks, anti-quark, they all spin counter-rotational to each other. So this is the key, this counter-rotational spinning, and the differential is the leftover harmonic energy between those spins that I'm actually talking about. So I knew that there was a problem, and I wrote physicist Frank Close, who wrote the Particle Odyssey, and I said, have you noticed this, that the electron-positron have different wavelengths, therefore when they compete against each other, they're not equal and opposite, and why do you have all the subatomic particles counter pairs equal and opposite mathematically? And he said, that's just a coincidence. I mean, that's only one photo. So I sent him more and more photos where every single time this was happening, and he went silent. So then I realized that if pairs of waves were vibrating against each other, in fact, you can do a simple experiment right now where you take your hands and you put them in the heart prayer position in your heart, and start moving in a circle clockwise with both hands together. That's what happens when two waves are in a synchronicity. But when you rub your hands against each other, you get friction if they're spinning opposite to each other. And in that friction space, you're producing a vibration, sound, energy. That's where the differentials are. So the next thing I did, and this gets into stones, which will then lead into, what are the Great Pyramids and what is the mathematical proof.
And your theories about this one, they're absolutely stunning. Go ahead.
So what I did is I took my six-sided crystal and I measured in centimeters and millimeters, to be very precise, all the sides. And I realized all these sides are different. I had two equal sides at 4 centimeters. Then going clockwise, I had 3.3 centimeters, the next face 3.6, and the next one 4.6, the next 3.7, and then I come back to a 4. And Marcel Vogel, really, I don't know if you know the story of Marcel Vogel, and the computer scientist at IBM who actually built the first hard drive systems at IBM, who became fascinated with crystals. So much so that actually it led to, at Stanford University in 1993, they actually put a movie of the Mona Lisa and a separate movie of a hummingbird flapping its wings in 3D and stored it in a crystal, and found that crystals will become the hard drives of the future because they have memory. So, and what Marcel Vogel was doing is he was watching crystals being born in their liquid state going to solid state, and they used invisible wavelength cameras looking into the ultraviolet. They could see the waveforms, imagine like two ocean waves colliding into each other, that were vibrating together that formed the crystal. And then the crystal goes into a solid state, and then you have this frozen piece of silica. And then with that, you can actually understand what created this architecture. And why is it that in sacred geometry, and this is where we're going to turn a page on sacred geometry, and I'm going to reveal something in the Great Pyramid that is utterly miraculous. Why in sacred geometry do we make all of our sides equal? And I realized that all I had to do is do a new type of math, very simple division, which you can really pretty much master by the time you're in grade 10 even, is divide each of the sides into each other to see what their common ratios are, both clockwise and anti-clockwise on the crystal. And if all of the sides of a hexagon or a three-sided triangle are equal, they'll divide into each other one time, and you'll get static energy, or energy that can't.
Right, one more time on that one.
Well, if you take, for example, a triangle, very, very simple triangle, and all the sides, the lengths of the sides are exactly the same.
Okay.
If you divide each side into each other, you're always going to get a 1. And that was the problem I had with sacred geometry, because in nature, all the sides are not equal. So I thought, what does that mean? Nature could never be wrong. And when I did the math, clockwise versus counterclockwise on the crystal, the numbers it generated on the ratios were, oh my God. Like, for example, side 1 was 4 divided by 3.3. I got 1.212121212, like a harmonic repetition, right? And the next side was 3.3 centimeters divided by 3.6. I got 0.91166666666, and I got all these sixes. And on this went, no matter where I took a natural crystal and did the math clockwise and anti-clockwise, I got these codes that were repetitive infinities, like 108, 108, 108, 108, and they go forever. And I thought nature produced, the waves that produced this crystal were created it with these harmonic codes. So what would happen if I designed a harmonic code generator using those same multiple frequencies in a set together? What would I generate? For example, right now we're talking on a particular frequency on the radio, right? And so what I'm talking about is, that was an evolution in science. First we had, powerful energy waves that we used. We were all obsessed with amplitude, increasing the amplitude, and then it became all about frequencies. But then I realized there's something beyond broadcasting radio wave generators in frequencies. There's something called harmonic sets, and I actually know how to build them with these numbers. So then I come to, okay, I built my my first set of harmonic wave generators, and I realized that with these crystals, these numbers that I was generating, doing the math clockwise and anti-clockwise, that there was something way beyond pi, the resolution to resolve the circumference of a circle. You take the diameter, the distance across the center of a circle, times this magical formula 3.141592, and et cetera, and you resolve the circumference. And then you have the golden mean ratio, which is the basis of fractal geometries for all those people out there who know about the miracle of fractals. And I realized there's way more harmonic codes than pi and phi. In fact, there's thousands of them. And if you know the harmonic code of virtually anything, you could probably create anything you wanted, and even energy itself, if you knew the code. And that is what I believe Tesla did in his famous experiment in Colorado Springs, where he shorts out the entire state. So then I took the Great Pyramid. Oh my God, this gets really incredible, George, because we see, firstly, before I show you what actually happens and what I actually discover in the Great Pyramid itself.
Because you've tied this now into ET production.
I can tie it into anti-gravity. I can tie it into energy. I can tie it into how ETs are actually communicating. This is all going to become really clear.
Okay.
And think of it like, the Karate Kid, like wax on, wax off. Why are we doing this? It's going to be really simple, folks. So you'll really get this. So first of all, this was already well known that when you look at the ratio of the Great Pyramid and its trinity of pyramids at the site at Giza, they're a perfect ratio resemblance of Orion's belt, the star system.
Right. Though Zahi Hawass would say no.
Yes, but that was not my discovery. I wanted to go deeper, and I thought, there must be something about the pyramids. They're made of limestone, which is silica and minerals, which makes them very conductive as generators. And second, in the core, you have granite, and granite, actually, I've used in my lab, is one of the best stones you can activate with these harmonic codes. So I decided to take, using the original measurement in cubits, the sides of the square. If you're looking straight above the pyramid, it looks like a square, right? And you realize that, once again, I mean, think of man-made sacred geometry in the modern world like all the sides exactly equal. But when I looked at the measurements, the precise measurements of the sides of the Great Pyramid at Giza, I noticed